And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit. Like God's property, it's hard to market. So we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. 'Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the
All rise for Judge Joe Brown.
Oh, you
Experience, knowledge, and a passion for the truth.
protecting womanhood and promoting manhood.
Bringing no-nonsense justice to Americans everywhere.
If you listen, you might learn something.
It's time for Judge Joe. It's time for Judge Joe. It's time for Judge Joe. It's time for Judge Joe.
Want to say peace and blessings, family. We have the Honorable Judge Joe Brown here with us. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. And thank you, Judge, for taking time out of your schedule to have a discussion with us tonight. Really appreciate you, especially with everything that's going on in your schedule. So really appreciate you. And so family, want to, give some shout outs to everyone. Thank you again for joining us. How are you tonight, Judge? Can you hear me clear? Everything okay? Is the audio clear?
Can you hear, Judge? Can you hear?
Can you hear me, Judge?
I don't think you can hear. Check and see if you're on mute.
He's on mute now.
Okay. Can't hear you.
He's mute. He's muted.
Hit your mute button. Let me text him. Yeah, I can't text him.
You're muted, Judge.
Let me text him on pad. You're on mute. Hold on. Let me text him.
Still can't hear you. Can you hear us, Judge?
Can you hear us?
I was going to see if he can log out and log back in.
Can you hear us?
We can't hear you, Judge.
We can't hear you. Can you hear us? Okay. gonna log out and he'll try to come back in.
Bear with us, family. Everything was working fine just before we went live. So, this is not surprising because we've experienced this before when we had a different guest on here, and this began to happen. So let's try it again.
How about this?
There you go.
How are you, Judge?
Our man.
There you go.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Well, appreciate you, Judge, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, especially with running for mayor, which we know you're a shoo-in for that. I know you have a lot on your plate right now, and so we could just really go right into it if you want to talk about the situation down in Memphis, because I know that there's a lot of questions about the whole situation, about what's going on down in Memphis, and kind of what sparked you or motivated you to really take a political position of mayor down in that area. What prompted you to decide to run for mayor? So I'll just render the floor to you, Judge, if you want to just share some information on it, your thoughts on that.
Well, I didn't grow up in Memphis. I did in Los Angeles, South Central LA, before it became South Central LA. But I've been here for a half century, and I've done my part in making a place the good side of it. Hey, so anyway, the people kind of recruited me a couple of years ago, so we've been working at it, and it's interesting because the press around here wants to act like I do not exist, because I would disrupt their boat, turn it over, and sink it, take a lot of people down with it. So they need to be taken down, and the town needs to be given back to the people. So I'm doing send Brown downtown and take back your town. We need police reform. We need economic development. We need to expand the trade. We are sitting at the geographic center of the distribution net for North America, from Canada to Mexico, and Europe's trying to get directly in here with trade, and Bozo the Clown and Keystone cops don't know what to do with it. There's some fine people in the lower levels and mid levels, but we've lacked leadership for quite some time here in Memphis, and most of the people are frankly, they're corrupt. Not most, but too many of the people that are supposed to be running it are just crooks. And that's what they are. Everything is, what can I get out of it? And the devil with anybody else. So that does not work. People are worried because their children and grandchildren want to leave the place. Nobody's safe. We have done absolutely nothing for the last 8 years to get a handle on it, and it can be done. We can use the Mississippi River to generate electric power. We have a Ford plant and a Cadillac plant nearby that are going to be making nothing but electric cars. We could have it all, but the shysters that we've got running the place right now are more interested in what goes in their pockets than what's happening with the people. And the bad thing is they're all young and mostly 40 or under. So that's not good for what the future brings. But we can do it. And you just have to bring the people in it. We don't need to bring in an outside committee. We don't need to throw money after or anything else that other folk are trying to get under the table. We have the talent and the resources right here, but nobody will ever use them. It's always, we have to have a new program because I don't have a clue what to do. When you get the programs, you've got bureaucrats who don't have a clue what to do, and there are massive sums of money spent and nothing comes out of it. And when you get to tracing your money, you say, hey, whoa, wait a minute. You paid yourself, didn't you? Oh, of course not. Yeah, but it went through 4 different channels, but some of it got back to you. So what are you doing? People need to be accountable. I mean, I could detail the mess, but I won't. And the thing about the Memphis 5, the gang in blue, which is now 7, 8, or 9, I would suggest that everybody hold off on this police brutality thing and take it more as some police acted brutal toward a specific target that is becoming more and more obviously baby mama drama, baby daddy drama, and there was a personal animosity between one of the officers and the deceased and a baby mama involved, and all 3 used to work together, and there's been some hassle before it, and somebody had a posse that wore blue, so this guy looks like he was targeted, so it looks like the thing was intentional. It went wrong because he's got Crohn's disease. And he was like 6'3", 6'4", and only weighed 140, 145 pounds. So they administered a beat down on the wrong person who died of it. That well, I have to up my numbers. Yesterday, it was 649 people died in Memphis in the last 24 months. Now it's 650. And we've had multiple shootings. I have to keep up with the several fatalities just in the last few days. So it's endemic and nobody has a clue. And one of the big problems in Memphis is part of the city has one of the highest per capita incomes in America, and another part has one of the lowest, and the city never pays any attention to any of the people in the middle, doesn't care about small businesses being developed. It's all in the pockets of the big stuff. And that means stuff goes back under the table, sometimes over the table, to the people that push it. There's no planning, no development. It's just chaos. And somebody needs to be held accountable for that. So I said, I know how to do it. I've got plans for the place. Been working on them for a long time. So let's get in there and do it. And the other thing is going out and talk to the people up close and personal. And I've got a bet with the candidates, a dare really, dare you to go out in the hood without an armed bodyguard and walk when it starts getting dark and see if you get out of there alive or in sound condition. Now, one of the people as a candidate is the newly elected sheriff, first black sheriff we've had. But he wants to get in this, but he's got a problem because some of his officers were there on the scene and they did allegedly some wrong. There have been 3 homicides in the last couple of months in the pretrial detention facility located in the same building where his office is located. So that's somebody who knows what to do, how to do it, has the drive and the personality to make sure it happens, get in there. Just back off. It's term limited out. You can't serve but 2 terms. I was nicely retired, if you could call it that. And you can have it when I get through straightening it out. And this will be a mecca for the country where we will develop some alternative energy sources from fossil fuel, away from fossil fuel, and we will be sitting pretty and people will be copying us. I mean, I'm sure you don't want to hear the gory details of the layout. And one other thing, we don't need any more civilian oversight of the police. We need the civilians running the police in command control of what's going on. And everybody else answering to the civilian control rather than, oh my God, they're doing wrong. But you see, too many people we have, they sit down at something like, let's say, the Peabody Hotel, which is internationally famous in downtown Memphis, and they sip Chablis and nibble wafers and cheese while the ducks go in from the elevator to get in the pond, which the hotel's famous of. Oh, Jamal, did you see the ducks? Did you see the one with the strange green markings? Oh, wasn't he fascinating? Like, really? Dude, come on.
Wow. And Judge, you touched on the situation as far as with the Tyre Nichols situation, because I know that there's been the word going around about him having a relationship with one of the police officers, ex or whatever. And I know the family had during the funeral labeled it as a rumor, but
Oh,
so
families always do. Deceased is always the perfect child most of the time. But, that's why Memphis did not erupt, because it was out there on the streets. And people said, oh, man, that ain't no baby mama drama. That's not what you go get sent to jail for. That's a full move.
yeah, yeah. And is it the norm for us to have like these special forces like this, police forces in different communities that's just created by, I guess, the police chief to
No,
police the area?
that's there are so many lies involved in that. She just got here this year.
Okay.
At first, they were trying to give her credit for what is known as the Scorpion Unit, but it used to be known as Blue Crush. And what's going on is Memphis has the highest rate of carjacking in the nation.
Wow.
Top 3 in homicides and rapes and kidnappings.
Wow.
And the unit was created because the citizens were hollering about, we need to be safe. So they did that. And it started off 3 years ago. And the predecessor, I mean, it's the same thing. They changed the name, but they were trying to give her credit to explain why they brought her in the first place. See, we have quite a number of lady cops here who could have been the director, not chief. Why not chief? Because we haven't had a chief of police in 41 years. Why? Because the chief is civil service and you can't remove the chief except for cause. So that means that nobody has control over the police department but the chief. The last mayor to have a chief was careful to explain why. He said the police weren't responsive to the needs of the people. They mistreated them badly. So when that person retired, one was just not appointed, but there was a director of police who is essentially a civilian that can be removed at the whim of the mayor. So either straighten this out or go.
Mm-hmm.
He had a pretty good setup for a while until this clown, who is the current mayor, got in. He termed out, and this is first time we've had term limits on the mayor's office. And the chief he brings in from Atlanta was fired after being demoted for helping out a friend girl by blocking the investigation of her husband, who was supposed to have possessed too much kiddie porn, but it turns out the feds jumped in after this whole mess developed under her watch, and they wound up indicting people, and it was not possession, it was making kiddie porn. And then she went to Carolina, the same kind of mess that was happening down there. And what did this idiot in the mayor's office do? He went down and he brings her in and gets her approved as the first chief in 41 years, and they still haven't cleaned up the mess in the last 2 places. So about a year ago, he was trying to say, not a year ago, some while ago, he was trying to say they created this unit, but she hadn't been here but a month. So no, I know she was over the SWAT team the equestrian, that means horse patrol in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
some other raid teams, and something that was known as the Red Dog Squad, which basically was hassling some of the LGBT folk who were involved in the drug trade situation allegedly in Atlanta. So that didn't go over well in Atlanta. So she got bad mouthed by it. But this thing about she started the Scorpion Unit, and the letters stand for an acronym that has to do with community safety, was, I think, known as Blue Crush, and it started about 3 years ago when the idea was to get rid of the drag racing,
Mm-hmm.
the carjackings, the kidnappings, the rapes, and the shots fired from the cars, which have become quite frequent in Memphis.
Wow.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So this unit, by the way, over the last 3 years, made more than 2,500 felony arrests and got about 850 stolen guns off the street. The chief herself had her own guns stolen.
Wow.
You know, like you're the chief and you got your piece stolen. What
Wow.
time is that? And we've had almost 3,000 car break-ins, and since they put that thing online about how to hijack an Infinity or steal an Infinity,
Right.
every time you look at the video footage, it's 2-3 Infinity drive up and 3 guys out of each Infinity jump out and break out the passenger window and Jimmy the glove compartments of parked cars, and they're all outside restaurants that have these signs, no firearms allowed. And see, in Tennessee, you can get a permit if you want, so you can carry in other states. And here you have constitutional carry, so you don't need one. If you can buy one, you can carry one.
Right.
And people lock their guns in the glove compartments rather than putting them in the trunk so everybody can see that's what they're doing. So the bad guys come along and hit the cars and steal the guns, and they've gotten quite a few. So what does the chief do? She leaves her pistol in a car, gets broken into, stolen, and some people are alleging that it was used in crime a few weeks later.
Wow.
So 84% of the firearms here that are used in crime are stolen. And there's another statistic: the higher the rate of citizens carrying legitimately, the lower the violent crime in those areas. But this bunch wants to defund the police. They want to strip citizens of the right to carry. And they don't want to put anybody out there who knows what's going on. It's just, now me, when I was on the criminal bench, I got elected to 2 8-year terms as a criminal court judge. The statewide recidivism rate during the time I was in stayed at 80%. That means a felon will be back 80% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But in my courtroom, it wound up being just 18%. Now, what did I do to get this together? Well, I can do that on a bigger scale as the mayor, and that's what I'm going to do for the people. See, sometimes you have to get basic and get up close and personal with everybody, and that's why I had that dare. So sometimes it's, hey, come over here. What you want, man? Get over here. Oh, Judge, wow, man. Didn't I tell you to be home at 10 o'clock? It's after 11:30 now. You see me day after tomorrow at 10 o'clock. That is name down. I ain't playing with you. Hey, what you talking to my homie for? This A&B conversation. I wouldn't get in here, but you can't listen. 6 hours later, the sun's coming up, and there's 14, 19, 27 young men gathered around trying to hang on every word of how to be a man. So you give young folk a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, man, everything's bad for you. You think you're going to be dead in 18 months? Well, that makes you an ideal hero. You've got nothing to lose. So I will give you a purpose. And if you go along with what I'm trying to show you, I can get you some training and you might get a good job. And see, if you do what I'm talking about, people are going to be working for $36.12 an hour, or $78.14 an hour, or $142.15 an hour, instead of chicken change worrying about Mickey D's and the minimum wage. But there are going to have to be some changes to be made, and it's all about character. What is
Judge,
character? It's
Judge,
very
what's,
important.
I'm sorry, Judge,
Go ahead.
what is the demographic breakdown in Memphis?
Oh, glad you asked. 65% of the citizens are black, 65% of the police department's black, 60% of the criminal court judges are black, 60% of them are women. If you, so the, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the majority, close to 60-some% of the police department's black.
Mm-hmm.
65% of the jury pool is black.
Black.
And we do have some discrepancies. We have a non-black member of the House of Representatives who's been in there 18 years, and his district is 92% black.
Wow.
Wow.
And his showpiece item of legislation for 18 years was a binding resolution that requires the congressional cafeteria in D.C. to use paper straws. So he's next to useless. And we have a decayed infrastructure with the utility company. The potholes in the street are minefields. And in fact, I've talked to a couple of people in the last 2 weeks when I brought the subject up who said they lost children, grown children, who got killed by hitting one of these potholes.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's that bad, and there's no sand and salt, no road equipment, and we just had an ice storm, and you can read about it through the weather reports. It's coming up. Everybody knows it. And the mayor's office and the city government don't do anything about it. And every year there are multiple pileups where a lot of people get hurt. And every other year or so, a bunch of people get killed. So it's avoidable, but nobody seems to care because they want to they've already put $750 million into converting a football stadium into a soccer arena. Rock concert entertainment venue into what I call an opera house. Blocked this whole thing off that's known as the fairgrounds and turned it into a upscale selected area. There's 25 acres in the middle of downtown Memphis, assessed at tens of millions of dollars in an undeveloped fashion for tax purposes. The city sold it to a developer for $600,000. That's 25 acres. And it's taken another $500 million to help develop a place. So there will be, let's say, 28 luxury units with boutique shops for their enjoyment. They're trying to wipe out downtown parking. So nobody will be able to come down there. They say take the bus, but the point is buses don't run very often and much, and they've turned it into a gentrified area where the old office buildings have been turned condominiums. So it's just a real weird thing. They took a park, they wanted to get rid of Jeff Davis and Nathan Bedford Forrest statues. So the county commission and the city council sold it to somebody for $2,500 with no bid, and now major hospitals want to build a multi-billion-dollar hotel on top of it. So all of that rent money is going in somebody's pocket. It's just absurd what they're doing. And guess what? Everyone that's handling any of this is a candidate for mayor. And so far, we've got 10, 12, 15 people. So I've got the name recognition. Everybody knows me, but the newspapers don't even mention it. They talk about everybody, but they don't even mention me. But the problem is they keep having these polls and I keep winning them. So they don't like it. because why? I'm honest. And I know
Right.
where the skeletons are, the closets they're in, and hell, all of the cemeteries they're buried in. So we will have honest government, high wages, and we will expand, and we are welcome. Well, we will be welcoming immigrants as long as you're legal. This will not be a sanctuary city.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's going on here. We're just going to the people since the others have been bought and they're trying to buy it. And by the way, you can probably do it in your area. Right? There is an app. It's called followthemoney.org.
Mm-hmm.
Followthemoney.org. Put your favorite politician in there and see who has been contributing to them and how much, and you'll see who their masters are and who you're really voting for if you vote for them.
Mm-hmm.
This bunch, they have some questions to answer about who's been handling money. Like 4 of them, they've got a bad problem. There's this nasty oil pipeline they're trying to run through the black areas in Memphis. Nobody here is getting anything out of it, but it's highly dangerous. So they're running it right through a residential area, and all of them have taken big money from this concern. So are we getting representation, or is somebody else getting representation? The other thing, they're supposed to be running against each other, but they're all too friendly down there at the Peabody, sipping Chablis and nibbling wafers. Oh, Tommy, would you have Jamal pass me one of those pink ones? They look so tasty.
What their pinkies up?
Yes.
It's that. Man, the corruption.
Well, hey, Judge, it's funny that you mention that because it makes me think about, and I don't know the full details of it, but Mason, Tennessee.
Oh,
Are you familiar with
Mason?
Because it
Mason,
sounds
35 to 45 minutes outside of Memphis, however the traffic's flowing. Right now, there are 5,200 people that live in Mason. They had a problem. It's heavily black, 60, 70% black. And over the last 25 years, they've had some officials who allegedly ripped them off for a lot of money and embezzled a lot, but nobody went after them. So one of the other candidates for mayor went up there. He was with the NAACP, the chapter president. He goes up there to intervene. The citizens filed a lawsuit against the state comptroller and some other people. And it looked like a good lawsuit. So what does he do? He goes, jumps himself in and dismisses the lawsuit with the agreement that the 5,200 people are going to pay back all of these several millions of dollars that were stolen from them. So you're the victim, but you got to pay for it too. And meanwhile, there's a mayor of Tipton County purportedly bought 550 acres dirt cheap right between where the township is now and where the factory is going to be 12 miles away, which is nowhere. And they're going to expand that town to a city to accommodate the workers and their families. Ford said they're going to hire a minimum of 27,500 people inside of the next 4 years. So 5,200 is a small number. You can't fill all those positions with those people. And since some of them are children and old, elderly, no. So they're going to bring in 27,000 people. And when you get the average of 3 point something per household, that's 75,000, 80,000 people. And that means that they're going to have to expand the town. And in 10 years, you're going to have with the fast food places, the movie houses, barbershops, beauty salons, emergency clinics, everything else, grocery stores. You're going to have a town of 150, 160,000 people, which will make it about the fourth largest city in the state. So people are trying to get in there and make money. They got little scams, like they'll take a Walgreens that has been abandoned because Walgreens thought it wasn't, Walmart thought it wasn't profitable. So the urban entities or the municipalities have acquired them. They go in, they get them for dirt cheap, a few $100s. They come in and put a few thousand in it to renovate it and turn it into something like a storage facility or another kind of storage facility. They like turn them into jails and then rent them back to the county.
Mm.
So the jails aren't proper because they don't have the appropriate interior structure to be real jails, but it's a nice hustle. The other one is to buy property from a municipality dirt cheap and then rent it back to the municipality for practically as much per month as they paid for it. So these are scams that get run around here. They're popular now, and somebody needs to look at them and somebody needs to put somebody in jail. So we need to restore some sense here because this could be a very big place. And see, the other thing, the Japanese automotive industry wants to locate here, but they can't because nobody will cut them any slack because they don't want to bribe the local officials.
Right.
But they moved down into Mississippi. They set up a Nissan plant down there where all these jobs could be going right here, but they're not. There's barge traffic trying to load up on ocean-going barge transports in Europe that wants to come directly here to Memphis without having to go through customs until it gets here. That gets blocked. There's an opportunity to take these electric cars that Ford and Cadillac will be making, put them on barges, take them down to New Orleans, put them on the barge transports, take them to Europe, or go right through the Mediterranean and through the Suez Canal and then on into Asia. And oh, by the way, pick up a few loads of Nissans, Toyotas, Mitsubishis, Hondas, and stuff like that, come back the same way, go through the Suez Canal, Mediterranean to New Orleans and up to Memphis. But these guys and gals can't think like that. They've got other agendas.
Wow. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow. Because I read up on it, and someone brought that to my attention about what's happening out there, and said that they were basically being forced to get rid of their charter or whatever for his community.
And the black folk in the NAACP that he runs, one of them runs, is behind that. They're trying to shut it down. So Ford will be ever so grateful.
Wow.
To them. It's a ripoff.
Yeah.
See, that's the new breed of black leaders. The devil with everybody else. Let's see what I can get out of this, and I can front off, and I can put on my medium level suit, high, and be pompous, and yes, I have what it takes to help everyone out. And as long as you don't look at who's been buying me,
Wow. Wow.
Yes,
So what is the
the pinkies out? Yes.
Yes, the pinkies.
Yes.
Yes, the pinkies.
If you like red, Thomas, I find it a little challenging. I don't like it that dry, but then again, maybe the whites are a little dry too,
Yes. That's good. That's good talk.
So what do you think about the even going back to the whole Tyre Nichols situation, the way that they've been presenting the information in terms of the officers, when it's apparently is more than just the five black men that they highlighted, far as not dealing with, far as, or at least making it public, the other, for example, the white cop that tasered and pulled him out of the car.
Right.
What are your thoughts about that, Judge?
Well, I've been in this criminal justice thing for half century around here. This is the quickest indictment I can think of. It may 10 days. And I, for the life of me, do not understand why, as they develop cases, they didn't just get arrest warrants and start off, go through the preliminary hearing while the investigation's continuing, and they jump second degree. But if this is planned beatdown that morphed into a murder, hey, you have felony murder, which is murder in the first degree. If you can show they intended to kill him from the front end, and that's murder in the first degree as well. And they charge the people with second degree. And it's going to be a real live mess. I know some of the defense lawyers that are involved, and they know what they're doing. So this isn't going to be any walk in the park, but you look at the involvement of the president of the Young Democrats with the family situation. You look at Kamala Harris coming in here, swooping in here with Al Sharpton to just get the whole situation out like vultures feeding on a carpet. And here's Ben Crump come in here to latch on, oh goody, how much he's gonna do. And then I'm looking at the mayor and the chief of police acting like, are you trying to confess the city to this? You know, at this point, without consulting with city attorney to see what's happening, or did you cut a deal with Crump to get a piece of this act? You know, what are you doing? And what is this? Last year, she started the Scorpion unit. This year, she's saying, I didn't do this. It was going for 2 years before I got here, which it was, but under perhaps a different name. But what happened since you got here? Why haven't you gotten people out there to train these folk on use of force, procedure? And did you notice they didn't try to handcuff the guy?
Right.
Absolutely.
And you see that guy supposedly taking a picture, the one cop, interestingly, while dude is laid up against the car, jacked up. That was supposed to be the picture that somebody was running mouth off about that got sent to baby mama, allegedly.
Oh, wow.
So we have another something. People are always hollering about guns. Now, I saw taser, a nightstick. I saw pepper spray, but I didn't see a gun. And guess what? Taser, nightstick, pepper spray are supposed to be non-lethal devices to keep from using guns. So ordinarily, we think a cop going bang and shooting somebody. And by the way, the landmark case about the use of police use of force comes out of Memphis. I was the chief public defender at the time. It really got to hit him and came back from the Supreme Court. But you have to look at this. It was character. They killed somebody by beating him to death. They didn't use what is classified as a lethal weapon. So is this about the weaponry that kills all these folk, or the lack of character on behalf of the people that kill folk, and what's going on in our communities that nobody wants to talk about? You have taken the masculine component out of the hood. You've taken manhood out of the hood. You don't have any fist fights, you know, toe to toe. Everybody's popping caps because they think they're too pretty to punch it out. Literally, I used to hear that from the witness stand when I'm sentencing somebody. They're trying to explain why they did it. Judge, I'm too pretty. I can't be getting those scars on my face. Yeah. And, you know, it gets really weird when you get into it and nobody wants to talk about We need to start talking about character and building it. But everybody says, oh, we can't do that because it might cause someone to feel shame. We should never embarrass anybody. And we should not have anyone feeling guilt. Oh, hell yes, because those are good things. They get humans acting straight up and down. But when you take them out of the picture, you get a real live mess. So you saw some young thugs who weren't supposed to be thugs, but they were thinking like thugs. And that's because for 50 years, starting way before they were born, you got glorification of dysfunction. You've seen this stuff where they've got one right now where these young punk boys are jumping on this little 9-year-old girl and they're beating on her. Like, what is that? Where'd you get that? And then last week they had on Twitter, one woman was off in a fast food place. She was naked from the waist down, and her tube top had come down to the waist, and she's up there fighting naked up in the fast food place, and there 10, 12, 14 other folk fighting up in there. Or there was another one they had. Some guy was out in the mall, and woman in the mall, 9 to 10 other women wanted to jump her. Same kind of things. Lack of character, lack of refinement, lack of civility, and all. I could make a list that long of adjectives to describe the nonsense. Or even this one, waiting 2.5 hours in 100-degree heat to get a Popeye's fried chicken sandwich. Dude, oh man, it was a good sandwich, man. It was worth the wait. How long did you wait, sir? About 2.5 hours. You waited 2.5 hours out in 90-degree heat for a chicken sandwich. Oh, I wouldn't even wait that long being fed champagne on the house in a 5-star restaurant. What's the matter with you?
That's crazy.
You know, they opened up a Whataburger down here, a new one.
Mm-hmm. That's ours. It's Texas.
Wait a minute. Line through 3 drive-through lanes, out the front, around the corner, down the block, around the block for Whataburger. Now, day after day when they first opened it, and I didn't see much of anything but black folk in that line. And I'm going, really?
Yep.
You have nothing better to do with your time. Really? But
That's what we do.
we need to get it together. And if you're going to get it together, start working on the man in the mirrors or the woman in the mirror. So that person can say, hey, did you do what you were supposed to do yesterday? I know what you did. Oh, man, no, you can't lie to me because I'm you. Are you going to do better today? Yeah, I'm going to make you do better today because I'm your conscience, fool. And not only are you going to do better today, you're going to start preparing yourself to do better tomorrow. So you get somebody in there, and I walk around in Memphis, and people come up to me all the time. Hey, Judge Brown, how you doing? All right. You remember me? No, I don't. Well, you gave me some time. Did I give you enough? Yeah, but she was that man training thing about doing the right thing, not because somebody making you, but because that's the man thing to do. Men are supposed to protect and provide, et cetera, et cetera. So I've been married 29 years after you got through with me, and, you know, I've got grandkids, and all my kids went, you know, they did right. And I had 15, 16 boys in the neighborhood. I'm trying to teach what you taught me. And it works. See, you teach one, each one teach one, but it works out. Each one teaches 10. See, you give them a call. Say, hey, man, we got to clean this up. This is our job. We're not waiting for somebody to do it for us. We're going to get it together. We're on a mission. And if you want to die, I'm drafting you in my army because I'm putting you to work doing something for yourself. You can feel better in a while when you get through doing what I tell you to do, and I'll get you so you can earn some money legitimately. All right? Okay, so we get the posse working out for positive good. And there's some ways around that too. See, putting civilian control of the police department, there's a model for it. I don't know why anybody refuses to look at it. It's called the Department of Defense. You have a civilian commander in chief, the president. Now, this one's a damn fool, so he's not good at it. But we've had a few that are. We've got civilian secretary of defense, and we've got civilian secretary of the Army, Navy, Air Force, etc., subsecretaries. So every one of these military units or branches has a civilian in charge with command authority. That's the way we need to do the police department. You need a commissioner of police or a director of police, commissioner or director of homicide, uniform patrol, traffic, sex crimes, property crimes, burglary, bad checks, juvenile matters. And we've got a new juvenile court judge for the first time down here. He used to be the public defender in my courtroom for 10 years, or one of the 4 in there. He's a good lawyer, and he comes from good stock. His family's been active for years and trying to get things done around here. So he's going to reform things, I'm sure, down there, because we had a clown that got on board in 1963. The judge dropped out of the 6th grade, so he only had a 5th grade education, and he was not permitted to hear cases. So for literally 43 years, he couldn't hear a case that he was elected to hear.
Wow.
Now, when I first got to Memphis 50 years ago, first time I went in that court, I was representing 5 clients. This guy's using the N-word and all this, and don't you hear me talking to you? So you talking to me? And I went off on him. I started calling him all stuff. And I said, I'm a lawyer. You have a $10 jurisdiction over me. Here's 100. Now, so he wound up saying, well, I was a bit hasty here. I didn't realize you was a lawyer down here representing somebody. And see, when I got here, they had just integrated that court about a year and a few months before. Black folks still weren't really allowed to sit inside the courtroom unless their case was about to be called or you were a lawyer. And then they begrudgingly let you sit back with the spectators and not in front of the bar. I'd always just walk up and sit in front of the bar. Hell, I'm sitting there. And, you know, it used to be rough around here. I can remember trying the case. Well, my associate at the time was married to somebody that also ran the public defender's office and became one of the mayors here in Memphis. He wasn't a bad one, but we're sitting in there and the judge goes, Mr. Brown, Mrs. Wharton, would you two please approach the bench? Defense counsel, if you would join them. State, please come up. Mrs. Wharton, Mr. Brown, is that a nigger you two are representing on trial with these 3 white men? Another situation. Boys and girls, the court is so glad to have you here to take an interest in the civic going on. And he introduced the jury and explained what they did, introduced the prosecutors. There were 3 of them, and they are here to protect you. And introduced me and 5 other lawyers. And these distinguished gentlemen of the bar, and he called me Mr. Brown, they're here to represent the defendants. And the 3 niggers who were sitting behind them stole some cars from some white dealerships, and they are on trial for auto theft. Dude, really?
Wow.
That
And
was
Judge,
1980.
wow. Wow. And Judge, I had a question too, because I know with the whole Cosby situation, you gave a profound statement, and it still resonates even with what we see playing out in the media today. I'll just read it real quick, and if you want to expound on it, that'd be great. But you had stated that mainstream media and Hollywood incite public disorder by lying to the people about the law and encouraging mob rule.
Mm-hmm. See, lawyers, defense lawyers looked at this and said, man, no way. Cosby's defense team asserts the Fifth Amendment when they wanted to be questioned in a civil case. The DA writes a letter. There is no intention by the district attorney's office to prosecute. Therefore, there do not appear to be any Fifth Amendment considerations. Now, you can't make somebody testify in a criminal case, but you can in a civil one. So the civil judge says, okay, there's not going to be any prosecution. The court is ordering that Mr. Cosby has to answer this deposition. He didn't admit any crime. He just simply said in the deposition that the women asked for drugs and he provided them with drugs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then the next DA says, well, we're not going to honor that. We're going to use his statements to prosecute him with as part of our main case. But the press was going rah, rah, rah. So you're the press, you're the Fifth Estate, and the First Amendment gives you special status in America so the people can be informed. And what you're doing is intentionally misinforming them as to the law. So I was saying, hey, you can't prosecute Dr. Cosby. It's his Fifth Amendment. Now, I've talked to Dr. Cosby personally a time or two. We have each other's phone numbers. And what is troubling me is that I won't go into it, but what they tried to do to induce him to go ahead and admit guilt, and they put him on the roll, and he said, no, we're going to uphold the law. So as I predicted, right when it was happening, I said, there's no way any conviction out of this is going to stand because an appellate court has to set the conviction aside. So the jackass that was the trial judge sat on his behind and didn't fill out the paperwork he was supposed to within a limited time, and he waited 6 months to make sure Dr. Cosby would spend that much time in prison. He should have let him stay out on bond pending the appeal, but Dr. Cosby turned it around, and what was interesting is this people who represented the street gangs told the guards and the administration and other prisoners, nobody's messing with Dr. Cosby. And a couple of guards got jumped because they didn't say Mr. Cosby or Dr. Cosby to him. So, you know, he is known by his good deeds.
Right.
But, you know, I don't like to see women get abused, but that was when the sexual revolution was going on.
Exactly.
And that was about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, sex, drugs, basketball, baseball, football, you name it.
Correct.
And that's what was going on. So a lot of things happened in the interim. Some people thought they were going to jumpstart their careers by doing what they thought they were going to do. And it didn't work out. So in remorse, it wasn't their fault. It was Cosby's fault because he gave them what they wanted on the front end. Now, we're going to have to take a brief commercial break. Somebody's at the front door. I was expecting a package. All right?
All right. All right.
Be right back.
Wow.
All right, family. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in. And if you want, go ahead and post your questions, and we'll see if we have enough time to do a Q&A. So what are your thoughts so far, Sister Carol?
He's opened up a lot of information for us about what's going on in Memphis and this corruption otherwise. Not just Memphis, that's everywhere, to be honest with you.
Well, especially with him when the judge elaborated on the situation being personal with the whole situation with the cops, you know. So definitely with him sharing kind of like an inside scoop of being down there, because most of us, we're not there, so
No,
we can only go off of what's being said
correct,
to us by way of the media
correct.
and in news outlets. So when we hear it, it's going to sound like they're rumors. And then when
Mm-hmm.
you hear the family say, hey, these are rumors,
Right,
we're not from there, so we're going to take them at their word. The
correct.
judge gave a great
In depth.
wealth of information
Yep.
for that entire situation,
Mm-hmm.
as he pointed out that it was personal,
Mm-hmm. Well,
and
you can tell it was kind of
it's
personal.
a lot more to it.
Right.
Even what he shared about the police chief.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that was some great historical information that he shared.
Yes, I heard him say that before on another channel, so I knew about the task force team had been there, was already in place before she arrived from Atlanta, and I was in Atlanta when she was the chief of police there. So, yeah, that story has been pinned to her now that she's the one that created it, and it was already there when she arrived. Now the issue is going to be is what did you do about it after you got there,
Yeah.
which is always the issue. Whenever you take a job, whatever the drama was going on prior to you accepting that position, that contract that you signed to be an employee is now yours, and you have to
Absolutely.
do something with it. So that's what they're holding her accountable for. Well, this is under your helm. Yes, it was in place, but you didn't go in and do any kind of reform with it. You didn't go in and do any corrective action. You didn't do any type of training. You didn't bring them back together and have a new direction with them. You allowed them to continue what they were doing, and look what happened. So that's going to fall on her plate, and she's going to have to eat it.
And I think too, what he pointed out too, the judge pointed out too, that was interesting, is that the weapons,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
they didn't use their guns.
Right.
You know what I
No, they
mean? They
didn't.
use their
Their
boots and their
bodies.
hands, their
Yep.
bodies.
Yep.
So that's going to be interesting too, as he pointed out, because you don't think about those things. When you think of weapons, you think of, like the guns, the
Mm-hmm.
taser, the
The
clubs,
nightstick.
and those type of things.
Right.
Yeah, you don't think about, all right, how is that going to be approached?
Correct.
So you can see a lot of politics that's really injected into this whole situation. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna tell you, anytime I see Sharpton and now Crump show up,
Oh,
I just throw my hands up in the
political
air.
pimps. I call them
You know what I
political
mean? I
pimps.
mean, they're just like everywhere. I mean, those from the New York,
Creepy
New
Crump.
Jersey,
Yep.
Pennsylvania, Connecticut area, that metropolitan area, we know about Sharpton. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh
And
yeah, he snitched.
when I saw them show up at the scene, it was like, oh my gosh, here we go again.
And then they
So
brought their crew, and they brought their crew with them too. That was in the congregation, had them all identify and stand up. It's just pathetic. And it's
yeah,
the same, whenever we have a quote unquote murder that's now become a spotlighted situation where now we're gonna, this involving the police and one of our own, the first person they're gonna be on the scene is gonna be Creepy Crump. When you see him, the other's gonna come right behind him. And
yeah,
then the cherry on the cake is the vice president swooping in to show her appearance. You never see her. We haven't seen her since the election.
yeah,
So
yeah,
please, it's a
yeah,
joke, and it
yeah,
taints the whole situation because you're taking it away from the victim while you're there. It's because of Tyree. He's in a casket, but you just forgot all about him. You want to politicize what you want to politicize. And I know they're trying to push this George Floyd bill, but that bill is not going to do anything to help the situation.
yeah,
It's just making a data bank for a log of police officers to do certain things. What is that supposed to do?
yeah,
Nothing.
yeah,
That's so different. We have that for physicians and nurses too, but they still find a way to go practice.
yeah. And Stay on Fire Ministry, just what you pointed out with Al Sharpton, that's the word back home. That if the situation doesn't draw a lot of attention for as media wise,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to take it. They're not going
Nope.
to handle it. They're not
It's a
going
high
to
profile.
jump in there. It has to be something that's drawing a lot of attention,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the word up in the area about Sharpton, and I guess now Crump that's part of the team, so to speak. That
Yep.
wherever he goes, wherever Al Sharpton goes, he goes.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the word on the streets back home about Al Sharpton, and
High profile.
and I think too, when he started laying out Memphis, man, I mean, I didn't know Memphis became, for example, the stolen car capital, because
I didn't know that either.
tens, you know, tens of for decades, right? Newark, New Jersey, my hometown, was number one. I mean, it was so bad in Newark, they don't even have Geico insurance. You know what I mean? Some of the major insurance companies refuse to insure cars in that area.
Right.
So you have to get, like a local insurance company for many people there, but didn't know that much about, far as the death rate. Didn't know that they were at the top with the death rate, because I know at one time it was what DC was up there, and DC Baltimore area was up at number one for a while, and just some of the things that that's going on there. I mean, I used to go out to Memphis a lot for work, and I would have never thought that that's where Memphis is, especially right now.
Right.
And maybe because where I was, it wasn't, in the neighborhood, so to speak, and me being a visitor coming in. But yeah, he's just shared a lot of nuggets about the history of Memphis and also Mason, Tennessee. To me, they kind of have some similarities there about a lot of the corruption and our people coming on the short end.
Yep.
I didn't know Memphis was 65%, close to 70% our people.
Because all the whites are moving out. Moving out to the suburbs, the rural areas.
As Judge pointed out, the way that they're going to do downtown is like they're bringing them back, but but pushing us on the outside. So
yeah.
But welcome back, Judge.
Yeah, I heard what you were saying, and the people that are pushing us out, all black folk pushing us out.
Yeah.
Not for other black folk, but
Wow.
In other words, some people are vying to be houseboy and third floor winch in the plantation house.
There you go.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I had a question too, Judge, because I know you're probably familiar with the whole Kyrie Irving situation that occurred and the Kanye West and those different things. And I had a question about the term anti-Semitism. I know that there's a court of public opinion of what it means versus the legal definition of what it means. Can you share light on that?
Look up Webster's. Anti-Semitism is not a crime. It's a state of mind. All right. Now, I'm the first to tell you, be fair to everybody. It usually helps out in the long run. And not being fair to everybody usually goes into xenophobia, which is the fear or resentment for the unknown or the different. Everybody suffers from it from one time or another. Now, I'm not saying when you are fair to other people that you are expected to be fair, because the world's not. I just had a hamburger earlier today. Do you think that was fair to the cow that I ate? No. All those guys waiting in line for the chicken sandwiches, do you think it was fair to bird chicken? But life's like that. So there's this thing called decency, mannerability, courtesy, being polite, that kind of thing. We ought to learn that and behave that way. Now, back to this other anti-Semitism. Some of the worst I ever heard somebody talk about is some people in Hollywood who were Jewish when they were, say, talking about Minister Farrakhan or somebody in the house of Saudi Arabia. I think got absolutely ridiculous, and shit didn't make any sense either. But it's all dependent upon who says it. And the deal that's really crazy is there's nothing in the Constitution about hurting somebody's feelings or those feelings being protected. And when I was in elementary school, junior high school, we used to talk about everybody's mama running the dozens for recreation. Hey, man, I don't say nothing about your mama, man, but I was by last night while you was asleep, man. And, you know, me and your mama, we was doing things, but don't tell your dad, man, because he was at work, man. You know, man, I don't say about your mama, man. She's so fat, man, she can't get in the bathtub but 2 drops of water in there with her. Why she stinks so bad, man. You know. Yeah, like that minion. So I don't get it when people it's not about my mama. Yeah, it's about feelings. Well, dude, grow strong, man. You know, hey, get over it. So when you start talking about bad names, here's the only time legally that you run afoul of stuff classically is on free speech. The only restrictions is if you slander somebody, libel somebody, that's about writing about them. In other words, they're called defamation of character. They wanted to keep down duels. In other words, you insult me, sir. Bam, bam. I challenge you to a duel. My second will see yours, perhaps day after tomorrow at sunrise. Okay. Down by the river that flows through the estates, you know. So you don't want that. Can't defame anybody. You can't do something to cause an immediate public disturbance, like falsely yelling fire in a crowded theater.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't utter fighting words that are likely to cause some people to get into an immediate physical combat and break the public peace and dignity. Now, these guys that are complaining now, they're too sissified to fight their way out of a wet paper bag, let alone stand up and do something. So it is what it is. Now, that's not what it's all about. So when they start doing this thing where you protect people's feelings, and that's what they're getting on Kanye about, and some other people about, I mean, it's not polite, but it's not defamation of character. And it certainly doesn't cross the fence like it does when somebody that gets upset by this pays for all of the use of the N-word in all of the dialogue and the rap, the music, the movies, the television, and they don't get upset about us being called dirty, filthy things. And by the way, the N-word is not nice. It almost stopped by the end of the 60s, but then it built up in certain other areas, and then it became a matter of street cred to use it. And then some folk voluntarily went along with getting paid to use it or just using it now because they think it's in, but it's not. Oh, see, man, like when we use the word, man, it take all the sting out of it. Your subconscious knows what it means, but every time you say it, you big dumb fool, your dumb behind is telling yourself you ain't worth a damn. Now, I might use it as a gross insult, but I ain't being friendly about it. You ain't got to be in, man. If you a real in, you no. And then, what you done, man? I said, well, in the scheme of things, if we kept the scoreboard, I'd be up there on what I've done for the people versus what you have talked about doing, which isn't even talking about it. It's down there like that. See, the people that open up these doors that you folk have closed on yourselves, we didn't do it. And oh, by the way, I'm not talking about the civil rights much. Somebody said, well, you got arrested for civil husband. I said, yeah. Are you trying to compare yourself to Dr. King? No, he was nonviolent. I'm not. You know, so there is a difference in that. And I had my Choctaw maternal grandmother used to make everybody kind of angry, but she'd sit around. He was real old. He was in the late 90s when I ran into her, but she was still sharp. She said, "Oh, you colored folk, you get mad when the white folk do something to you. But my folk, we just go take a scalp and nail it to the lodge pole and we start smiling." You don't know nothing about that.
Wow, wow. So what do you think of because I know you've seen so much and witnessed so much, especially being in the legal system from being a judge and all, an attorney. Uh what do you think about where we are today versus where we were 20, 30 years ago, even back in the
We've
60s?
fallen.
Hmm.
And you know why we've fallen? You've destroyed masculinity.
That's it.
That'd be like destroying femininity. You need both. Humans, we do this thing, you know. When we work together, we're always clashing, or eternal war between the sexes. But pretty much we cooperate. We know how to work it until recently, when some people got disenchanted and they didn't want to go along with it because nobody wanted them. So as a defense mechanism, you ever heard of the sour grape syndrome? Aesop told this fable of the fox walking along. He saw these luscious looking grapes on a vine and he tried to get them. He couldn't reach them, couldn't find anything to stand up on to get them. And he walked away. So, oh, they're probably sour anyway. I didn't want them in the first place. That's called the sour grape syndrome. So some people can't get any play and their list is non-existent, male or female, so they dislike the opposite sex. Sour grape them. They're sour. There's something wrong with them. Toxic masculinity, or men are evil, or blah, blah, blah. So they want to turn everybody against everybody. And over the last 50 years, we have stopped teaching boys and girls 101A and B. And the young kids don't know how to get along with each other. And I look at what they do with each other, and I said, come here. Talk to a young brother. You know who I am? I said, here. I'm doing a survey. How many times have you had sex? Hey, you listen. He said, wow, that's pathetic. You know, back in the 60s, we had that much in the first part of the week. This is this old guy's whole life thing. Like, no wonder. And then you talk to the girls, and I said, you aren't sleeping around that much. It's just that every time somebody looks at you, you get pregnant. How many children do you have? 3, and you're 19 years old? What is the matter with you? How do you suppose you're ever going to get ahead in life if you keep burdening yourself that way? Well, what am I going to do? Why don't you check and find out? There's some things you can do. Are we R rated or are we PG or what on the rating schedule here?
Well, we're adults here, Judge, and you know that's why I have you on here. So, you know, speak your thoughts here.
Okay, when I was a judge, I used to counsel everybody I put on probation, and I had questionnaires, and we wouldn't be in a court setting. I would be dressed just like this, you know, and the doors are locked, and I'd have them answer these questions. 3/4 of the people I dealt with didn't even know how people get pregnant, or when, or what. Like, And we, at the behest of some psychologists, put some things in there about sexuality. Nobody knew how to do it. Like, Get up. Yeah, man, I put the snake in the tunnel, man. Man, you know, all right, man. 3 minutes is my max, man. Can't go but 3 minutes. What's wrong with you?
Mm.
Or I thought he didn't like me. Why? Because he thought about he was trying to please me. I thought he was just trying to work me. What do you mean? I want to know why he was doing what he was doing for 10 whole minutes and he hadn't even got there yet. That's it.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, I see why we got a problem here, frustration. Do you know that right now, across all ethnicities, and black folk are just as bad, there are more boy virgins 25 and under than there are girl virgins.
Wow.
Wow.
See,
Wow.
what's happened with the boys for the last 20 years of this century, only 28% of each year's high school graduates are male.
Wow.
Only 32% of each year's college undergraduates are male. Only 36% of the grad students are male, and only 44% of the workforce is male. And there are only thing the boys are leading in is there are more boy virgins than girls, 25 and under.
Mm. Wow.
Where is this going? And see, when you have a man, it's his job to protect and provide to make sure where he lives is a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, ethics, etc. And he becomes a man of public peace, dignity, and order who can be brave and courageous when necessary. And I don't call it brave and courageous when you are going off trying to get somebody to kill you. We've heard of suicide by cop, but we also have suicide by neighbor.
Yeah.
Hey, man, what you looking at, man? You in the blue, man. I'm talking to you. Yeah, you, man. Ain't nobody out here in blue but you, man. What you looking at me for? I ain't looking at you. You call me a lie, man. Watch this hell, man. Watch this stomp. Hey, man. Let's see. Even I'm here on a bus, man. I'm waiting on my job. I ain't even got no job, fool. I don't care. You know, stay over there. Don't tell me what I'm gonna do. Don't walk up on me like that, man. Tell me, what you gonna do, man? Don't walk up on me, all right? So he keeps doing it. It's, all right, man, I told you, man, don't come up any closer. I do what I want to do. No, you ain't. Bam! Bam! You know, and now we got another fatality and somebody's going to prison, most likely. Maybe not. And it was unnecessary, and that's because somebody had no urge to live. So they don't have any respect for their own life. They have no respect for anybody else's. So instead of the men going out and making their neighborhoods and hoods safe, you have these boys who haven't grown into manhood, never will. They're out there trying to tear it down and die.
Mm.
And adversity, white supremacy, all of that, that's just adversity. We used to call that adversity Simba. It used to eat us. This one doesn't need, at least last I checked, they weren't into cannibalism. So if we can handle a lion, we can handle adversity. So adversity is part of being alive. And I'll say this, the older you get, the more adversity you run into. Ranging from the more you're out there, because the more you know and the more you get put in positions where what's going on is a need for what's inside your head, your knowledge. And then the adversity that you can't do anything about is old age, because that comes back and bites you real hard. You know, you're feeling good and it's Uncle Clank. You go, oh, wait a minute. Ooh, wee, what was that? You know. Yeah, I just got through jogging 2 miles. You know, I guess I'm doing okay, but that was 3 days ago. What was that from there? You know, See, but you have to deal with adversity. That's what being human is about. That's what being alive on this planet is about, because it's not safe. And one of the other problems I've noticed is that people are living in this safety bubble for the last half century or so. No more NOM, meaning no more draft. You know, nothing out on the frontier shooting at you. There's no large wild carnivores running around with an appetite for people flesh. People to take care of you. You can be flat broke, busted, and they won't let you starve. So, what is it? Is that the real world? No, it's not. It's a bubble, but that's about to pop. So, are you ready to deal with what happens when it all goes down? And bam, you're right out there in it. And we need to start saying to ourselves, instead of why we can't do something and how bad it is, we need to start planning on what we're going to do. I ask folk all the time now, okay, you've been hollering and going through all of this. What would you do? Huh? What would you do? Huh? I even told somebody I'm likely to be the next mayor. So I'm asking you, what should the mayor do? Huh? See, you just been talking. You haven't given it any thought. You've been parroting complaints. So you don't understand them. So those aren't even your complaints. What would you do to improve the city? Now you're talking to the new mayor. Tell me what you would like done. How am I supposed to know?
So, Judge, what do you think about the LGBTQ agenda? Because I saw a video out of someone in California before, I guess, the local Congress there or whatever, and she pointed out how she was in the shower at the YMCA, and a transgender per se man walked in naked to take a shower, and she she complained about it. Of course, she said
And
she
they
hid,
threw her out, yeah.
and they yeah. What's your thoughts about that? Because
Okay,
you
let me
see,
say this. Tactically, strategically, I think they made a wrong move when they embraced that trans thing. I'll tell you something else. I still have connections with Hollywood. I was out there 15 years. And a lot of the gay folk don't like LGBTQ. They call it a cult.
Right.
The way it was explained to me was, if you are a Muslim, does that mean that you support Al Qaeda or ISIS or the 911 thing in New York? Or if you're a Christian, do you idolize Reverend Jim Jones and drinking a lot of Kool-Aid at large church picnics in Guyana? No, you don't. You know who Jim Jones is.
yeah,
Yeah, and the Kool-Aid, yeah. Well, it's just like they'd say, just because somebody is that way, if they're homosexual, it doesn't mean they support Al Qaeda. Al Qaeda is a cult with a political agenda. And for the first time in this country, the people that run things are trying to impose that cult as the official religion. Well, it's not a religion. Well, yes, it is. Now, if you have Judaism, Islam, Christianity, everybody knows that's a religion. They have the same deity, right? What about when it's Buddhism? Is there a God with Buddhism? No. How about Hinduism? They have multiple gods. How about the fact that we still call the planets by their Greco-Roman names as gods? And we have Odin and Anthony Hopkins playing that, and Helmsford playing Thor for Marvel. We still have that. And that's what we do. So we can't impose those as the official religion. but you can't have an American flag on a government building with a cross below it. You can't have the crescent and the star or the multi-pointed Jewish star. You can't have that six-armed god or goddess for the Hinduism thing. You can't put a picture of Buddha under the American flag, but remember that has no deity, just like LGBTQ. But you can put a rainbow flag under the American flag over the American embassies, consulates. You see them in DC, banners from the federal building dropping down 12 floors, and government employees, federal government employees in DC painting the sidewalks and streets rainbow colors. What is that? Why is the government involved in that quasi-religion? You can't teach Catholicism, Protestantism. You can't teach Islam. You can't teach Judaism and make folk attend the classes. You can't do any of that in a school, but you can make them go attend something put on by these don't know what they are, self-hating types that don't want to be what they are, who are dressed up as trannies. We have problems with men not knowing that they shouldn't hit women, but it's okay for a tranny, some sick boy who can't make the varsity, to call himself a girl and break girls' bones in hard contact sports. That's all right. You know, what's going on? And then that guy walked in naked into the ladies' room. Is he really a tranny, or is he doing what used to be in the sitcoms and in the movies, comedy movies, all through the 40s and 50s and early 60s? Some nerds, some dorks, little punk boys, they would dress up as girls so they could sneak into the girls' bathroom and the girls' locker room, or drill holes in the wall so they could peep through. Is that what's going on? You want to play, go by DNA. That's what you need to do. I don't care personally what anybody does get their freak on in the bedroom, but leave it there.
Yep. Wow. Absolutely. So, what is your? Because I know you're shooing to be mayor. So, what are some of the changes that I know? That you're planning on implementing in Memphis? Based upon your understanding of the historical aspect and where the community is right now.
Reform the police department so it's under civilian control. Get barge traffic in there, going in and out. Set up things with Ford Motor Company and General Motors on these electric cars so it's got a maximum fallout to the community. See, I don't need the money, but some other people want it badly, so they will compromise the people. I want to sleep well at night. We're going to do something about youth reform. We're going to put in something I learned up there when I did that show, which was binding contractual arbitration. Under American law, you can have binding arbitration. So let's have the city get involved in arbitration tribunals where lawyers aren't permitted to practice, and they can resolve citizen disputes. That will cut down the violence and the hostility. Let's go work with the youth, recruit some of those who are on the cusp of becoming thugs and turn them around and give them some authority and closely supervise them and see what's happening. That usually produces a positive result. We can do something that I've seen in other towns, have student courts. So the high school students play lawyer and prosecutor, and one of them, under the supervision of a real judge, presides over the thing and let them hear the cases, try the cases, and determine the punishments within limits. And I'm told by my colleagues who are in places where they do this that they're usually hard on their fellows than adults would be. When you get a kid who's committed some offense, instead of busting him and taking him to juvenile court where he's trapped in a mess, to sign an agreement with the police department, various and sundry folk who need to be involved, including the parent or parents and the child, that he's going to undergo some counseling, vocational rehabilitation, academic assessment, and that kind of thing. And if he gets through it, then the charges never get proffered rather, and we can turn him around. We can get the community to clean itself up. There are a lot of homeless people around, not as many as there are in other places, but there's a lot of filth and trash that needs to be cleaned up. We can have them do it. The judges can cooperate like I used to and get the people that they sentence to community service to working on the streets. We can divert the money from everybody's little pet ripoff, or 2 or 3 or 10, and put that into fixing potholes. We can use it to get the leverage to set up some bond issues so we can acquire these modular hydroelectric generators. Look like the bottom part of a large outboard boat motor, and we can sink banks of them under rafts and stuff out here in the Mississippi and get free power. We need to do something about restructuring a lot of things. We need to have a calculus where for every dollar spent by the city, it's supposed to maximize the fallout to the citizens. And if it doesn't do that, it doesn't happen. We need strict compliance with the city planning so we don't get clowns coming in and without thought to the consequences, trying to gentrify something and run people out with nowhere for them to go. We need to start doing reach out thing to bring in industry and trade. We need to do something about putting an order in place so that we have an opportunity provided so men and women of good character can assist, say, the police in maintaining order out in the community and doing some home training on the streets. We've got a lot of things we can do. Also, stuff like this. In America, a bank's accounts have to be matched by a certain percentage of cash on deposit. City puts all its money in one bank that used to be a state bank. Now it's not only not a state bank, it isn't even an American bank. It's a Canadian bank. So why is the city putting all its money in there? So they have massive account possibilities when the middle class and the small businessman is ignored. We need to be spreading the money out and developing alternative credit unions and banking systems around here so that we can prosper that way. We need somebody to make it a coherent policy to encourage the middle class and the small entrepreneur to grow. So instead of giving $750 million to somebody who is one of a group of 7 somebodies that gets all of the gravy in Memphis, we need to make sure that other people get it, because a city is built on its foundation.
Right.
And if the foundation is right, the city is not in good shape and it will topple and fall. We need to do something about strengthening that foundation. And believe it or not, everybody at the top, except these clowns that are the rip-off artists, they understand it. In other words, as you say, Judge, people have cars. You know, they don't have to stay where they live. And if they're down and out and we're over here, they can come where we are and make a mess, which they do. You ain't getting away with it now. You have cars. And plus the other thing is we've got to do some stuff about our character. How many times have you taken somebody out to eat at what at one time was a decent place? Hey, man, Earl, man, you did what y'all was thinking last night. Good, wasn't it, man? Hey, young brother. or they share their music from 4 blocks away with all the F words, B words, and H words. Hope better, home. And the license plate to the trunk is violating, boom, better, boom, like, brother, do you have to go there? Thanks for sharing the music. But, it ain't really, dude, cut that down. And then see, other thing, we need to learn how to deal with people. I know body language. When we're talking in here, 15% of what we're saying consists of the words. About 35% consists of the tone, and 50% or more is body language. So I'm watching two dudes hassle each other, and body language is like, I'm going to kill this dude. I'm going to have to, and it keeps ramping up. So wait a minute, back off. Do you know what you're saying to each other? Yeah, man. No. What's going on? And then I realized what's going on. Children need to be protected from bullies. They need the police to intervene, and the faculty and the parents. Like, they're 8 years old. So you want to call the police on an 8-year-old? What's wrong with you? Some behind needs to be beat so they learn it. And see, they've not learned this, so they don't know. They aren't there. So they go from 0 to 60 quickly. And by the way, on that thing here with the blue 510 or whatever it is now, did you notice there was no escalation and no 0 to 60?
Yes,
just
absolutely.
Flat 60? Now, I've dealt with this for a half century. I know that when you're looking at that, that means there's a prior existing animus that's going on. What is it? Find out before you do anything else. So nobody asks. But you see, you get this no escalation. It's just everybody's so angry and they don't even know why. There's just a bam, back off. Somebody's going to die shortly here if we don't back this off. And nobody wants to tell them. Nobody knows how to tell them. And everybody's going, well, we must be considerate of these things, and we must reflect and appoint a program, a committee, and set up a program so that we can study this. And we have lots of bureaucrats who don't have a clue either, but I've got some nieces and nephews and children of friends, and we owe them something. They need to be hired, so they'll have a summer job. Really?
Yep.
Wow. And go ahead, Sister Carol.
I was going to tell honestly, Judge, before you go, I want you to share your website to your campaign. And so people who are listening or in the chat is from Memphis, they know where to go. To send Judge Joe Brown downtown.
Judge Joe Brown for mayor in 2023. Judge Joe Brown for mayor in 2023. Now, let's cut through the chase. Take the initials. Judge Joe Brown, JJB, 2023.com. JJB2023.com. Go there. You can contribute, and the Cash App is $ Judge Joe Brown, and you can contribute 5, 10, 15, 20, anything you want, because we don't want to be owned by anyone. And the motto is JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send pride downtown and take back your town.
All right.
And that's service. And meanwhile, if you want a little sauce, I do that too. JJBBBQ.com. Stuff is good, real good. We've been wearing blind taste testing. And for the sisters, back up to sisters, we've got one woman who owns the only Black USDA certified meat packing plant in California. She does the chicken links, hot, mild, smoked, raw. And we've got a sister we deal with. She makes she's got a distillery, would you believe it?
Wow.
Michelle Dukes, and she does Poppy's bourbon. That's some smooth stuff. It's like water. So smooth. And it's named after her moonshining, whiskey running granddad in Mississippi. So Poppy's whiskey or bourbon, and get in on the rest. And if you're in Los Angeles, go by 79th and Western, right on the corner. And there's a place called D's Original Takeout Grill. Just remember D's. That's the Chef Damon. He and I collaborated. He was doing it healthy and I wasn't, so we kind of put it together. It works real well. You'll like it. Get the 3-pack. It's most economical with the shipping, unless, of course, you like it so well that you want a pallet of the stuff, and we sell that too. We're in 483 stores in California, and we're spreading across the country, and you mail order it. The shipping costs are a little bit steep back east, but that's why I say get 3 bottles rather than 1, because once you do, you'll be going through it. You can put it on fish, veggies, beef, pork, poultry, anything you want. And we will have this near meat stuff for those who want to go veggie all the way, but you can put it on greens too. We'll show you how to do that. And if you drink, if you've ever had a Bloody Mary, you can have a hot Mary by taking the barbecue sauce, cutting it, put some ice in it and lots of vodka and a sprig of celery. And when you had too happy a Saturday night, you can get up and go see Rev Sunday morning without too many issues. If you That's the way to get the hair of the dog.
Well, Judge, I definitely appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come to, talk with us here. And do you have time to take a couple of questions from the chat?
Sure.
Okay.
You've
All
blown
right.
me Friday night, even though I am a bachelor. I ain't that old. I wouldn't.
All right. Let's see here. Let's see here. Here's a question here. I'll bring it up on the screen. It says, how are you going to set up a staff to get this done? Will you bring in outsiders or will you use local agencies and local people to establish the foundation?
All of the above. I've been around here for a half century. I know who does what, who knows what, who's righteous and who's not. And I've known people all over this country and the world. And some of them I'm going to bring in. And if somebody wants to audition, apply, whatever that works to.
Okay.
I have some plans. Okay.
Appreciate it, Judge. Here's another question here. What can we do about apartment complex shutdowns like what they're doing to Pepper Tree and Whitehaven? They are displacing them and refuse to even do maintenance now, and it's crime infested.
I remember when they built the Pepper Tree units. And what's going on now is it's still viable property, and some people want to get control of it. And they've allowed this place to go to the devil instead of doing what they needed to do to take it over and renovate it, rehabilitate it. It can be. I'm talking with some people in Whitehaven right now about what to do with that kind of thing. So instead of it being acquired by the usual land sharks that we have operating in this area, we can do some things with it and develop it. And I have some plans for that. I don't want to bring them too far out into the sunlight because there's some people that would cut that off if they knew exactly what. But you're right. Pepper Tree apartments need to be dealt with.
All right, let's see here. Someone else.
Let me give you one of the scams.
Okay.
Let's say some people who had something to do with building it want to be paid to tear it down, get paid by the city for doing it, and also want to get paid for a replacement in the area. Remember, this isn't far from the Presley Mansion on Presley Boulevard, not far far from rain. So keep that in mind. And also, nobody gives it much of a darn anyway because of where it is. You know, White Haven has become Black Haven. And I don't know, you strike me from your avatar as being too young to even have a clue about it unless you studied it. But they used to advertise it when I first got here. Is White Haven a haven for white people to get away from the colored?
Mm.
Now it's Black Haven.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Let's take it back.
Wow.
Wow.
Let's see here. Let's see what other questions do we have here. Pamela Cook, didn't see a question. You may have to repost it. And let's see here. Looking here through the chat here to see if there's any questions here. Let me close this out here.
Somebody looks like they're stepping out the church. Green and gold, green and gold.
Let's see here. She
Very
says,
nice, Pam.
let's see here. She says she posted a question. I don't see it here. This is Carol. Do you have any questions for Judge while I look through this chat?
Yeah. I think you already answered my question. I was going to ask you earlier. I know you have it's going to be a hard task bringing all these things that you want to bring in that you mentioned tonight to reform Memphis. What is your first priority when you get in there? When you get sworn in? Outside of getting your council together.
Followed by public safety, followed
Mm-hmm.
by economics.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to want to do economics if it's not a safe place, but it has to be very, very close behind being a safe place because economics causes people to act better when they're not running around broke.
Right.
And then we start back on getting control of the educational process since the city divested itself of that by turning it over to the County Board of Education.
Wow.
Who went into privatizing immediately for profit. And they have nice ways of ripping off too. Like, for example, there is a funded legal department for the County Board of Education. There is a board attorney, but they turn right around and hire an old line silk stocking law firm and pay them $500 an hour to $1,500 an hour to do routine work that's supposed to be done by the legal department. Now, how do I feel about the support or absence of support for his mission? What his desire is cost. I don't understand what you're saying there. And he may have resistance getting funded for project. The money's here.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is what it's spent on. And there are a lot of people who want somebody that makes them feel like it will be worthwhile. Every poll they've taken, I've come out on top. And I'm going to do it for the people. You vote for me, you're voting for yourself. $1 for me is $1 for you. We'll all come through for each other at the same time. The people need a leader to put them together so that the people can do their thing. We don't need to bring in anybody from outside for any more of these programs and committees because the people know what to do. There are people here who've long known what to do, but they've been studiously avoided and suppressed because the disorder that we have now is very profitable to certain interests. Now, how can we bring more job opportunities from Memphis to our community? Well, Asia has these modular hydroelectric generators that they use to generate electricity by tides going in and out. But a tide will flow in for a few hours, be slack for some hours, and then flow out. And the main cost from 3/4 to, 4/5 or 7/8 of the expense is storage facilities to store the energy. But we don't need to do that. We can put it right into the net, as I said, sell the surplus. But you see, American industry historically goes where the most beneficial access points are when it comes to getting fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we get these jobs in, that will provide an economic basis for the city, and also some other things about vocational training with the city, which the city can subsidize, some other things. Now ask me, can police reform be fought with the Black community having our hands deep in law? Well, 65% of the cops in Memphis are Black. The chief of police is Black. The sheriff is Black. 60% of the judges are Black. 65% of the jury pool is Black.
Mm-hmm.
So
fire department's Black.
Fire department is run by a Black woman. So just exactly what is it that we have to overcome except ourselves?
Right.
We are in charge of it. It's like, I used to do this. All right, you're in charge now. What you gonna do? Huh? I just gave you control. You got the keys, everything else, the checkbook. What are you gonna do? Huh? Figure it out, man. Don't you know you've been talking a good game complaining? What are you gonna do? Now, hey, I gave you the checkbook, dude. Now what you gonna do? And you got the setup. Now do something. But you see, that's another step. So I know what to do. So put me in charge. I can be fearless leader. I'm not trying to make a career out of this. I had a good time, good adventure with some life, not so good women I've been with, and had a good time. And been many adventures and walked on the tightrope and got through the winds and on the other side on dry, secure land. Okay, I live in Florida and have a question. What's the best way to stop landlords from raising the rent every year? Our rent is 200% higher this year. Well, you can go get some political help, but you have to also understand what is it that so many people aspire to? They want to have their own business. So think of it this way. Your typical landlord that is going to do this to you, he's trying to make it like you are. And he doesn't want to be where you are right now because he did a lot to get where he is now. Now, that's one type. The other one is like some of the sharks we have in Memphis. And that's where those people you supposedly elected that are supposed to represent you and not be surrogates for somebody else come in. They need to do something so the big corporate landlord doesn't get to walk all over everybody.
Right. And
that can be done. Now, I don't know what the exact situations are in Florida. Can straight people sue the LGBTQ for anything? I've been waiting for somebody to bring an action against them for attempting to corrupt their children, a child, a grandchild.
For real.
That might be interesting.
Especially now, since they're trying to push a child is now allowed to tell you their gender when they're born, and then you're not supposed to identify their gender at birth. That foolishness.
Some people have mental health issues.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, that is a good question, and as you pointed out, Judge, is people having the courage to actually, like you said, sue because of just that alone. Go ahead, Judge. I'm sorry.
Look what your officials are doing to you. We have the Emmett Till anti-lynch bill. Tuskegee Institute not the Tuskegee experiment. They've kept a century-long record of lynching. For every one white person lynched, there were 2 black people lynched, up to a point. But a great number of the lynchings that are recorded took place in the Wild Wild West. You can see that on the Turner channel. Boys ain't gonna touch these prisoners. They buy care. We gonna give them a fair trial before we hang. Now, the last 3 people that got officially lynched were in 1963, and it was in Mississippi. It was 2 white kids and 1 black kid, according to Tuskegee Institute. There are people that are hung from trees, but it's not lynching. It might be murder. And down on the Mexican border, they're finding people hung from trees, but that's from one drug cartel wiping out, sending a message to another one. That's not lynching. Now, Emmett Till anti-lynch bill. First off, in conversations at great length with Emmett Till's mother and the family, official family biographer that I just talked to 2 days ago, what happened to Till is not considered a lynching. It was only 2 people, and it was a murder, outright heinous murder. But under this Emmett Till lynch bill, what its true purpose was is for the first time in American history to interject sexual orientation as a category. The other thing is what do they define as a lynching? Is it a mob? It doesn't have to be. It could be just one person doing the lynching. Does the lynching have to involve a killing? No, it does not. It can involve a kidnapping or a beating. And here's the way it could work. Make a federal crime. Guy just broke up with his old lady, right? He's feeling bad and he goes to the bar, he's drinking, and there's this attractive somebody over there, low cut, tight dress on and hair done and hoop earrings, makeup, everything else. And he buys her a drink, she drinks, he drinks, they start dancing, they exchange spit on the dance floor and back on the bar stools, and then he notices that the dress wearer has a heart on. Whoop, what is this? So he punches it in the mouth or the jaw, whatever, splits a lip, loosens a tooth. That's now federal lynching.
Wow.
And did it do anything to black folk? No, not one thing. Because it's all against the law. Murder is murder, and in most of the southern states, it carries a death penalty. So you're gonna die. What difference does it make? You know, you're dying for the crime. And in the South, they do execute people regularly. So what are we doing here? That was just something that Conyers introduced in 1997. It couldn't get passed. It kept getting brought up. Jussie Smollett, Juicy Jesse in Chicago came up with that line fart. And then Kamala Harris and Cory Booker instantly snatched the Conyers bill from 97 back off the table where it had been put again and tried to get it reconsidered as the anti-lynch bill. And then they came up with, we've got all of this other stuff going on. Let's call it the Emmett Till anti-lynch bill. And they disgraced the boy's name by putting it on that. And they got it passed. Barely. So now we have a bill that doesn't even require anybody to die. It doesn't require a mob. It just brings benefit to the, well, I guess you can't even say sexual orientation now. They want to talk about gender orientation. I'm a girl. Well, when the Titanic goes down the next time and the guy stands up, ma'am, you can have my seat, you and your child, I'll drown. Oh, thank you much. Oh, no, not you. Get back over there. They're
I'm non-binary.
going down with everybody else. And actually, even back when the Titanic went down, they had 3 or 4 that got shamed for the rest of their lives because they ran in and found a dress to put on to sneak in the boat.
Wow.
But see, that's a cowardly thing to do.
Right.
And you still have balls, so act like it. We're trying to. Hey, man, did they bounce, man? You got problems, man. What's your problem? You know? And you know what? Back to gay versus LGBTQ. My ex-wife and I, who was a very attractive woman, she and I got on an elevator in New York, and we were there in Manhattan for a conference with this show I had. So this vice president in charge of public relations for the studio, Paramount at the time, gets on the elevator, and he admits he likes a stiff one up to every now and then, and he's that way. He gets on the elevator, so we're on the lobby. We get to the mezzanine, and a flamer gets on. So our little gay vice president jumps off the elevator. So my wife and I said, what the devil is that? So some minutes later, we're up on the 19th floor. He shows up. I said, what was that? He said, I can't stand the flamer. Oh, hey, my wife said, may I get an explanation? I thought you all were the same. Oh, no. You know, if I wanted a girl booty, I'd go get a real girl, you know.
Well, that's an interesting point, though, because most people, when you just say gay or gay and lesbian or whatever, they think that they're all the same.
Right.
And just with what you explained, that there's a distinction between the groups, as you pointed out, the LGBT, the pronoun group is a religion, a cult.
Yeah, BLM is right in there too. They co-opted that, which was a good thing. Black Lives Matter. I say BFM now. Black folk matter. Black fathers, black finance matters. Black fraternity matters. Black fealty matters. You know, black fatherhood matters. Black feminism matters. Black femininity rather matters. And the problem with all of them is they're into self-hate. You know, we go, I'm black and I'm proud. Well, you are male, but you're so ashamed you don't want to be that. You're a female, but you're so ashamed you don't want to be that. So we have this self-disrespect, self-hate on the table that's guiding too much stuff. And BLM says for every dollar you send them, 1/3 goes to Act Blue, which is the Democratic Party fundraising device. 1/3 goes to what they call our close affiliates, LGBTQIA+.
Right.
And 1/3 goes to BLM so their founders can buy well-off properties in certain areas a lot of other people can't be.
Wow. Straight up scam.
Okay, should we focus on local elections only or deal with the situation before the next presidential cycle? Both. And here's another thing. We are the only ethnic group that owns undying loyalty to any one party. Every other ethnic group periodically just turns on the ones that expect their support. Say, how you like it when your water runs dry? So here's the deal. What are we getting for our votes? Now, do we get anything for the bargain? And then consider this fact. It's not a matter of lesser two evils. They've run that game on us long enough. We should be, if anything, voting for the one that heightens the contradictions. In other words, put the guy in that's going to make all the contradictions come to light so you can see what they are. And here's another consideration. if you always vote for one party, even though they never do anything for you, and always vote against the other party, no matter what they might try to do for you, neither party has an incentive to give you anything.
Mm-hmm.
Because one won't suffer for not, and the other one won't get anything for. So we got to break open that. I mean, Trump's evil. So what? What are you getting out of it? Go do the numbers. I heard Joe Biden first time say one of the most racist speeches I've ever heard, 1972 in Delaware. I was on a DC think tank then, and I heard him. And I have not liked him ever since. I'd have a stronger word to say, but I won't. And what are we getting out of this deal? What? And the Ukraine, look at all the money we're sinking into Ukraine. No reparations, but the money into Ukraine. Why? You know what I think is the problem? 2 weeks before the November 2020 election cycle, the Ukraine Supreme Court ordered this long multi-page indictment opened up and the redactions removed. We've got Hunter and Joe Biden indicted for bribery, extortion, suborning perjury, recruiting and conspiring to bring about treason.
Wow.
But here's the thing. Article 1, Section 8 says the commander-in-chief shall follow the law of nations.
Mm-hmm.
Article 2, Section 4 says the president and vice president can be impeached and, if convicted, removed from office. Amendment 12 says if they are impeached, they can never again hold office. What are the grounds? They're just three: bribery, treason, and felonies or misdemeanors in office. Treason is the only crime defined in the Constitution, and it's pretty explicit. But they set a precedent. I always say, be careful what you ask for, you might get it. So they indicted Trump for the second time when he was no longer president. That means they have set the precedent for impeaching somebody. Impeachment is a form of indictment for crimes committed when you no longer hold the office. Well, when Biden was vice president, not president, he allegedly did all these things that the Ukraine has against him in the indictment. They would also be crimes in America. Now, Article 6 of the Constitution says treaties ratified by the Senate are part of the supreme law of the land and shall be enforced by all judges in the land, federal or state. What is one of the treaties that's been ratified? Well, the one with Interpol, of which Ukraine is a part, and some with Ukraine directly, saying we would help them with investigations, apprehension, detention, and extradition of wanted parties. So since Biden has pending against him multiple counts of a felony indictment, we're supposed to take him into custody, hold him, send him over to the Ukraine. But he is commander-in-chief and president, so I guess they're holding up on that, but he's not going to set foot in Ukraine because they might grab him, and then all kinds of diplomatic, flips and backflips and stuff would have to be done to avoid nastiness. Meanwhile, by the way, why are we supporting Ukraine when it was the second biggest source of Nazis in World War II, and outside of Germany itself, the biggest source of Jews, vagabonds, gypsies, and undesirables sent to extermination camps? So since Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, Stalin said, we're not going to have that here. I'll handle it. So you have a large number of unrepentant Nazis and their grandchildren and great grandchildren that are running stuff now. And their research, some of those people that you see meeting with the White House, there are pictures out there of them some years ago where they have on white beaters or no shirts, and they're prominently tattooed with swastikas. What's that about? And Putin, by the way, says they're trying to do the following: keep the United States from using them as a proxy for a petroleum war, to do something about the sex slavery and slave trade that they're running out of Ukraine, and keep Nazism from resurfacing again. So they've got a point, because there's a huge number of Africans who migrated to the Soviet Union starting in the very early 50s. And they went to Ukraine, which was the southernmost part of Russia, and the weather is a lot better there than it is in Moscow, where it routinely gets 40, 60 below zero in the winter. I guess the Africans didn't want the cold, so they went by the sea in Ukraine. So their great-granddaughters, great-great-granddaughters have been routinely kidnapped and sold into sex slavery, and they have these hotel fortresses where they have brothels packed with women who are sex slaves. And a lot of them are black, part black. And the black folk catching hell over there, which is why a lot of them are supporting the insurgents and want Russia to come back in. So we need to be careful what kind of bill of goods we're getting sold. That's why they keep getting Miss Word Salad over there, Kamala Harris, Imhoff, Mrs. Imhoff. And I wonder why Mrs. Sarah Palin, Mrs. Feinstein, what's the one that came out of Alaska that ran with against Obama? Palin, yeah, Mrs. Palin.
Mhm.
Why is it Miss Harris instead of Mrs. Imhoff?
Mm-hmm. Program.
Why is she now bragging about she's the first Asian to be vice president? And that's what she has always held herself out to be. By the way, I met her daddy one time. It was in Jamaica at a banquet or a dinner that the governor general and the prime minister gave. I'm sitting at the table with him, and he was introduced to my wife and I as our favorite Hindu. And I won't go into that. That'd take us down another rabbit hole. But by the way,
We like rabbit holes.
the AKAs will come bragging about, we got the first black Greek who is a vice president. No, you didn't. Not close. The first black Greek to be vice president of the United States and Democratic Party candidate for president was white guy Hubert Humphrey from Minnesota. He got made as an alpha back in the late 30s, and then again in the grad chapter in the late 40s.
Get out. I did not know that.
White guy, blue-eyed, balding Hubert Humphrey.
Wow.
Alpha Phi Alpha.
Shut up. Get out of here.
AKAs, Alpha Kappa Alphas, our sister sorority. You ain't got the first. We did. So by many years, and you got a fake. You know, she's faking being black, but she may be an AKA, but you got you a Hindu in there. So that's good for you. You're showing diversity. Now,
so Judge, when are your debates coming up? You have any dates are coming up?
Debates?
For mayor.
What a good brother said one time, I only debate my equals and teach Teach all others. And there's nobody that's my equal up in there.
I know that's right.
What was that? John Henry Clark.
Yeah, that's John Henry Clark said that. It's a good line. The sheriff, we have just got elected the sheriff. Now he wants to run for mayor, but he's having a rebellion with his sheriff's department. And he doesn't speak too well. You got one boy, Van Turner, who sold us out. He's the one with the $2,500 park standing to make the money. He's so deep down the rabbit hole that it's pathetic. And then Paulie Young, he's got enough problems with his daddy's situation. And he's always me, mine, I, never says we and us or anything like that. So he's been bought off good. He's the one with the debacle downtown trying to put all the money into the hotels. And then we've got one sister that's on the state legislative body. If you go, write this down. This is another one. If you want to find out who owns your favorite politician, go to followthemoney.org and they will tell you how much and when and who. And the woman that recruited me, the late Dr. Barbara Cooper, who fell and died from complications from a blood clot. She was 93 years old and still active, sharp as she could be in the state legislature. And she recruited me and ran my exploratory committees and chaired the Zoom meetings. Well, in 30 years, she got about $750 over 30 years from this group. And this one particular woman has gotten $370,000 from the same group in about 5 to 6 years. So who owns who?
Indeed.
Oh, yeah. Look. Can we get the 13th Amendment amended to eliminate slavery as a punishment of crime? No, you don't need it. See, when you get confined to the penitentiary, that's part of the deal. You're no longer a free person. They have taken your property interest in yourself away from you and said you're not fit to manage yourself. So the penitentiary is the slave quarters anyway. When you get locked up, you are a slave. So take the language out. It's superfluous. It's ridiculous. And the thing of it is that you got convicted of a crime. Now, are they dumping on black folk? Maybe, sometimes. But the truth of the matter is for the last long time, 40 years at least, 50 years, out of all the people in the penitentiary, just a little more than 2% got found guilty by a jury. 97+% pled guilty. Out of that 97%, the statistic varies between 84 and 87% confessed. Oh, they forced it out of them. No, you should see some of those videos of the confessions. Now, I've got a dude in my courtroom. We're on recess. His homie's in there, and he goes, "Yeah, man, I'm upholding the colors, man. It's about the posse, man. Yo, I'm upholding." OG, man. And I get back there with counsel for the defense and for the prosecution, and we're looking at the video. Sir, I urge you to see counsel, and if you cannot afford an attorney, we will provide one. I don't want no lawyer. I want to talk to my mama. Sir, your mother's not an attorney. You can't confer with your mother. Cosby. I don't care. I just want to talk to my mama. Here, sir, wipe your nose. You know, snot's running literally like he a baby down his face, crying all over. I ain't done nothing. They didn't turn it up on me. It was Stomping Earl and Shaw Dog and Lil Mac. They did it. It wasn't me. I want my mama. Can I see my mama, please? I tell you the thing you want. I'm looking at this. I'm conflicted because I'm embarrassed. You know, like, damn. You know, and this guy's named all the people that the police still looking for on the multiple armed robbery. You know. Oh,
Wow.
There they are in my courtroom to give support to him. So I just have them locked up real quick, swooped on, and say, call the robbery squad. They're suspects in lockup, you know, right now. And this dude, huh? Yeah, man, I saw you crying in there. And I'm going to tell on you, too. Talk about the defendant. What's going on is the defendant in here has raised the point on his motion to suppress confession. He says it was coerced. On the court's count, the police advised him 11 times that he had a right to benefit of counsel. In fact, 9 times they suggested very strongly that he stop and say nothing until he talked to a lawyer, etc., etc. But he used up half a new box of Kleenex, and he implicated crying for his mother, literally crying with copious tears and mucus running down his face, that he wanted to talk with his mama. If they let him see his mama, he'd tell them anything they wanted to know, and they were trying to tell him he should remain silent. They told him to remain silent. Now, if that sounds atypical of police, for some it is, but for a lot of them it's not. You know why? Because they've been in trouble with internal affairs, and they don't hang around with prosecutors anymore. They drink whiskey with defense lawyers because they've needed a defense. As a former client of mine, now retired detective, told me once years ago, he said, Joe, you know, I know how I try to be fair. I like to sleep at night. When I was a rookie, I used to be all conceited and everything, and I knew everything. Yeah, they did it. And sometimes I said, back off. They maybe didn't. So sometimes I know I had a bad hair day, and I just threw it in the hopper. He can work it out later. So I don't sleep well at night till I think about, well, you got a good lawyer. He'll be okay. And then remember your client on the rape case? I said, yeah. You know what that was about? They called me up. Said, don't you represent so-and-so? I said, yeah. Well, bring him down. He's got multiple accusations from this one woman and another woman about raping him. That doesn't sound like him. So we go down to the rape sex crime unit, and we're sitting on a bench right under a clock on the wall. We were in there about an hour and 10 minutes because a big mess was going down and phones were ringing. And this one detective goes by and picks up the phone. And he said, yeah, what? What? Bobby, you better take this call. Man, I bet Bobby, take this call. Bobby was the detective that was conveying this about fairness. You better take this, man. So he comes over, what? You just got raped the 3rd time and your friend got raped again? When? Just within the last 10 minutes? Okay, and who was this? And he looked over at us. He said, okay, I'll take care of it. He hung the phone up. He said, you and your client can go. We don't need him anymore. I said, what happened? Like I told you, get it worked out for a bond because we were about to arrest him. But the victim and another victim said he just raped them less than 10 minutes ago and beat them up. They had to cut free. It's almost 35 minutes to drive from here to there. And you've been sitting here for the last hour and a half. No way. Said, bye. And he said, remember that? I said, I sure do. He said, well, see, stuff like that bothers me because I would have felt real bad if I'd locked up an innocent man and put him through those changes. So I want people to get their rights because if they're guilty, they don't tell you anyway. Remember, 84 to 87% confess. And some of those denials are bogus. Like, for example, real case, I'm the attorney. I didn't lose cases, all right? Wait a minute. There are 7 people that identify you, eyewitnesses. But he's lying. See, I wasn't even there. Let me go on the statements. All right. Now, how about this one? He says he knew you. He was in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade with you. He gave the police your mama's address and her phone number because he said he still had it. He recognized it. Here's what the dude said. He lied. He couldn't have seen me. Okay, why couldn't he see me? Because he was lighting a cigarette standing under the street light and I was behind the dumpster. He couldn't have seen me. I thought you weren't even there. Well, see, I wasn't there because he couldn't see me. But you really were there. What that got to do with it? I wasn't there because they lying if they say they saw me. I was way behind the dumpster. They couldn't have seen me. So he described what everybody else had on who were witnesses. And I'm saying, quit lying, fool. This ain't going away. Let's see. They lie. Man, we fixed this case. Me and my lawyer, it took us 100 big ones. And $100 grand, man, to fix this case, man. We bought this case. Say lying, I can't tell what he's told me or what his case is about, but I got him off on a technicality. You know what it was? He was in the back seat of a car, passed out, and the 2 guys that were driving had 2 roaches in the ashtray, and they were playing music too loud and got busted. So I just said, you can't, that wasn't but 2 roaches and 3 folk, and mine, by your own report, is passed out drunk in the back seat. How you gonna say he's the one? So I said, try it. He said, oh, we'll kick it. But you see, he's bragging about he fixed it. Mama, I ain't done nothing. So a lot of what you get told is not the truth. People do some real stuck on stupid stuff. We had 7 folk, 4 juveniles came through my court. Guess how they caught them? These damn fools did a drive-by, so they took the article in the local paper and Xeroxed 250 copies at Kinko's and autographed them saying we did it.
Wow.
Like, you'd be amazed at the stuck on stupid nonsense that goes in there. And they're all innocent. They're presumed innocent until proven guilty. But I mean, see, it's not like they're playing Robin Hood. They're robbing, raping, and drugging their neighbors and their mothers and their sisters and their cousins and their girlfriends and everybody that tried to trust them. And it's just like, man, what's wrong with you? And then what used to get me, Your Honor, could you please reduce his bond? I done made 4 this year. I can't make number 5. But he being a good boy, Your Honor, he ain't never give me no trouble. Lady, he's 19 years old. Since he's been 15, he's had 37 violent felonies. He's a major crime wave. He always give me what I want. When I need the rent paid, he always come through. He dropped out of the 5th grade. He's never had a job. Where did he supposed to get the money? I don't ask. The Lord working in mysterious ways. He shot 2 of your neighbors. He shot your first cousin one time as a juvenile. That ain't bad when they ain't never give me no trouble, and he a good boy. Lady, what is wrong with you? Your son is a major crime wave. All by himself. The boy a bad seed. He need Jesus, and that ain't going up because he going to hell. Lady, what is the matter with you? I mean, but it gets crazy up in there sometimes. The last criminal case I had before I took the bitch 34 years ago. Look here. You know what this fool does? He goes up and he's walking down the street It's literally 12 noon. And he comes up to a Circle K, which is like a 7-Eleven convenience store. There are 5 marked squad cars parked around the place. And this damn fool goes up in there talking about stick 'em up. What is wrong with you, man? Like, you, well, like, man, I was walking down the street, man, like, it come on to me, I ain't got no cheddar in my pocket, and, you know, there's Circle K, they got plenty of cheddar, so I went over to my ladies, you know, and I dug my technical equipment up, you know, I had it in a baggie with some WD-40 buried behind the dumpster, so I got strapped, you know what I mean? Yeah, I know. So I went back and I went in, I go in and say, it's going down, let it hit the ground. And they all jumped out and threw me on the wall and kicked my behind. They didn't even read me my rights. Did you make a statement? No, I didn't make no statement. You've been through this before, so what difference does that make? Damn fool, there were 9 cops in there and you went in uniform and you go in there to hold the place up. You need to be busted. They should have shot your fool behind and taken your behind permanently out of circulation. Why didn't you? What's the matter with you? Why didn't you at least look in there first? What difference do it make? What do you mean, what difference does it make? It's written in the book. You mean like the big book? Yeah, it's written in the book. Well, why didn't you resist the urge? But you think urge is his fault, but to put in motion was written. See, you think that was written in the book for you to, because you got an urge to walk up in there and hold this place up with 5 marked squad cars and 9 uniform cops in there sitting around at the table eating. Oh, you are a fool, man. What's the matter with you? It's gotten worse.
Judge, we thank you. I could listen to you all night. You are a joy.
I got to go. This has been Judge Joe. Call me when you can, since I'm the one that ran JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown and take back your town. We got to show we're on the go. We can make it what we want if we just come on out and do what we got to do. It's me and you. Take back your town. JJB in 2023. Mayor of Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, put some beats to that.
Well, you know, I used to be a DJ back in LA way back when.
I can see that.
Story, ask me about it. Tookie Williams and Barry White, they were kids on my playground.
Oh.
Yeah, I've seen how it works about reform long time. So Barry was a little skinny 12-year-old, and we started teaching, me and a guy named Clifford Stewart, now deceased, and another brother who is a doctor. They were martial artists. Name was Ron Chappelle, and me. We took it over.
Wow.
And Barry White's mama went with the program. Tookie's mama wanted that chick. She didn't go with the program. So he's smart as he can be. He's brilliant. No telling what he could have done, but he couldn't get out the swamp. So he just became the baddest alligator in the swamp. But he wrote a bunch of children's books, and he was teaching what we were teaching him. And they should have commuted his sentence, but they didn't. And he was one of the founders of the Crips gang. So that one was more than a half century ago. So we perfected the technique of making stuff work. And I want to put that to work for Memphis.
I believe you will.
Proud.
Absolutely. Well, we thank you, Judge, for joining us tonight.
And go there to that website, AJB 2023. There's a cash app. We can use donations. You can send some. Don't feel shame. Pass the plate.
Absolutely.
I'm out of here.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank
All
you.
right, sir.
He's a joy.
Well, family, we got a treat tonight, and preferably once he wins
Mhm.
the mayor, once he gets placed into office, preferably we'll be able to have that celebration
Mhm.
here with him, giving his acceptance speech here. And we really appreciate you guys for the love and support tonight. I meant to ask him about the garbage can. I was going to go out with that, but but it's all good. But appreciate you, Sister Carol, for setting it up and everything, and being here online tonight. With the interview. But
Mhm.
family, Judge gave a lot of information,
Mhm.
and for me, it just reminds me of like my uncles, and how
Yep.
they would just sit down and just pour
Talks.
so much information, and you just listen.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, we're living in a day and time now where so many don't want to listen.
Yeah.
I've listened to interviews like one that the judge had with what's his name, Lamont, what's the
Lamont
guy,
Hill.
Lamont Hill,
Mhm.
and how Lamont Hill for me was just very disrespectful,
Mhm.
because of he wanted Judge to call Bill Cosby a criminal.
Mhm.
That even though he got off, he's still a criminal, and Judge wasn't having that.
Nope.
Judge shut him down, but Lamont, whatever his name is, Lamont Hill,
Mhm.
I just didn't like his tone and how he handled that whole interview, because regardless, we still should be respectful, because Judge Joe Brown, he would be considered my elder, you know what I mean? And
Correct.
so our elders, right? So we have to be very respectful. Whether you agree or disagree with what is said, we still should be able to be respectful to one another.
Right.
And sometimes we can try to, interject our thoughts, and we miss the whole picture of what's being said. We miss
Correct.
out on so many nuggets that are being shared. So that's why, I listen. I do a lot of listening. My grandmother gave some wise words. She said, "There's a reason why you have twice as many ears, as far as the number of ears and eyes, than what you do with your mouth." So
Right.
that means to put double the effort to listen and double the effort to watch. And so that's what we have to start doing now. And again, I really appreciate the Honorable Judge Joe Brown for being on this platform tonight. And Sister Carol, anything you want to share with the people before we wrap up?
Just make people who are from Memphis that are in the chat. You got a job to do. Go vote. You got to get him in there. All the things he talked about for your city. You want it done. Get him in there, because they're boxing him out. He mentioned it earlier, and he talked about it on another channel. And try to interject and ask him about that, on how they're boxing him out in his campaign, and not giving him the representation as he need to have when he's one of the candidates. They're giving all the other candidates all their time, but not him. But however, he is winning in the polls, so that's a good thing with that. But however, his presence needs to be seen in the campaign. So get out there and vote for him. That's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You heard that, family. Get out and vote, especially if you're in the Memphis area. And even if you're not in the Memphis area, get the word out. We
Mm-hmm.
really need to get the word out.
Absolutely.
Just had to clear my throat. But we really need to get the word out and support. I mean, there, as he pointed out, he don't need the money. He's well
Mm-hmm.
off. But he's doing this because he see a need.
Mm-hmm.
He see a need, and he knows what will work, and he's ready to put that plan together to make things work. So let's support him. Let's get him in that office, because again, as he pointed out, a lot of the things that we see with gentrification,
Mm-hmm.
our own community is, representatives from our own community is selling us out.
Yep.
selling us out. But Sister Carol, any people you want to throw up in that garbage can before we wrap up?
Oh, let's see. All the corruption is in Memphis. The 10, 15 police officers now that's coming out the woodworks about to about to lose their jobs. All of them need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And family, again, appreciate you guys. Have a blessed Shabbat. And until we connect again, I may try to do a live tomorrow dealing with blackface. Really giving you some history about blackface and a particular community that really benefited the most from blackface. I think you guys may already know it, but I'm going to shed some light on blackface and some of the artists in their ethnicity. And, so we'll deal with that tomorrow night. But nevertheless, in the words of Moses to the children of Israel, as they, came to a dead end, as they came out of Egypt, they began to complain. They began to have regrets and doubts, right? And Moses had to encourage the people. And the Most High gave him these words. He said to Moses to tell the people, "Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, they will not have power over you again. You will never have to deal with them again. The Most High will fight for you, but you have to hold your peace." In ancient Hebrew, the word for peace in that text is charash, which means be quiet. Sometimes we talk too much. Sometimes we need to, as I pointed out, double the effort to listen versus responding. So with that being said, can't go back, can't stay here, keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14 verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis...